91% watching Heretics clips are not subscribed. Quick favor, hit subscribe. Free, takes 2 seconds, and helps us question everything together. I feel there was an interesting point that a lot's been made of online where you said about experts. And, some people are saying we mustn't listen to experts. And you said, have you been to these places? And I think it's hard for people to understand when they're listening to that who haven't read your book, your brilliant book on democracies and death cults, Israel, Hamas, and the future of the West. I was reading this, I've been reading it the last couple of weeks and have completed it and finished it. And it's an unbelievably good book that's beautifully written and gave me nightmares. I think everybody must read this book. You being on the ground, as you were after October 7th and have been many times in Israel, is essential to understanding such a complex situation, is it not?
I think so. I'm rather surprised that people think that I was rather surprised that people were surprised that I have a rule of trying to go to places that I'm writing about. But yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, it is a kind of journalistic rule. On the most basic one, you cannot be the correspondent for Washington, D.C. if you live in Plymouth. You would be. I mean, you could have views on it, of course, but if you're a journalist, you'd have to be writing from Washington, D.C. And again, if a British journalist wrote endlessly about American politics but had never been to America, or wrote endlessly about American society and what you have to understand about American society and had never been to America, I'd think that was a basic failing of theirs as a journalist. And one of the reasons I put myself in some of the situations I do is simply because I think that's what you have to do as a writer and a journalist. And I'm interested that there are many people coming up and voicing their views, which again, they have every right to do, to say that they think that's some kind of elitist thing. It isn't. It's very basic, standard journalistic practice.
I suppose we're in a bit of a difficult situation. It's something that I'm always trying to navigate myself. I had someone on the other day talking about the COVID vaccine. For example, he was an anti-vax, and I'm sitting there going, shit, I'm in too deep here. What do I say? Do I push back? I don't even have the knowledge to push back. Why am I doing this? At the same time, if we don't do this, the legacy media, they're only pushing one story, which, as you discussed on Rogan, about the vaccines was wrong. So
yeah, no, that is one of the great... Look, it's just something we're going to have to navigate. And if we're going to navigate it, we've got to be honest about it. A lot of experts have proven themselves to be wrong. That does not mean that expertise does not exist. And that does not mean that all opinions are relative or indeed of equal truth. If you were being wheeled in for brain surgery in your local hospital and comic Dave Smith introduced himself as your surgeon, I think you would say, could I get a qualified doctor to do this?
Yes.
Right. I mean, I acknowledge that it's a little less clear when it comes to who's a historian, who's a journalist, and so on. It's a little less clear because we're in a very exciting moment of mass access to mass amounts of information. But I still think that doesn't mean that everything is equally valid as an idea or as an observation. And when somebody makes an observation that I know not to be true, because I've seen that what they're saying is not true, I can't pretend that's all the same thing. And some people seem to think, that I must be saying that people don't have the right to an opinion. Absolutely not. Everyone has a right to opinion, and everyone has a right to voice it. It just doesn't mean that every opinion is equally valid. And if you've put in the years of work that I have into on-the-ground reporting, it is slightly irksome to have to refute claims that are untrue from somebody who's never put in a day's work on the ground. And again, I mean, people think that journalism doesn't have very many standards. We do have some. And but again, just getting back to this point of expertise, it's it's a really, I recognize it's a difficult one for people to navigate when it comes to less clear things than black belt karate and brain surgery. Still, there are standards. There should be standards, and we shouldn't give up on them. I'm not going to agree that some David Irving-esque revisionist historian has the same expertise as Martin Gilbert.
Is it fair then to say I felt maybe the first half hour, I listened to the whole thing, that you did feel irked and were making that
I always
point?
feel irked.
Yes, you're an irked man.
I'm an irked man.
And I think after maybe an hour or two, then you guys got more into the
Then we got into, I think we went on to Ukraine, then we did Israel, Gaza, yeah.
It felt like you wanted to make that point because Joe
wanted
was still
to make that point. I don't know if, I mean, it's obviously landed with some people and not with others, but that's fine. I don't particularly care. I tried to make the point as well as I could, and it's for others to run with it or not.